Welcome. We are broadcasting live from the mothership. You are tuned in and listening to Starseed Energy Radio with your host Jonah Bolt. Starseed Energy Radio, where you can always tune in to hear the colors and see the music. Starseed Energy Radio goes live in 3, 2, 1.
What's up, Spaceship Earth? Thanks for tuning in. You are now receiving a live transmission from Starseed Radio. It is time to hear the colors and see the music. I am your host, Jonah Bolt. Today is Thursday, October 2nd, 2014. That was a sample from DJ Gon's mix, PFL Sunrise. He was on the show a little earlier this week where we mixed his music all weekend long on our new radio show spot, which is Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. to noon Eastern Time and 8 to 9 a.m. Pacific Time. And if any callers are out there, you got any questions or comments for us today, you can call 800-313-9443. Got a lot of stuff to cover today, lots of news, lots of things going on. We're going to have Ryan Dernick going over the latest news and updates with us the first half of the show. Second half of the show, Kelly Anderson will be joining us. We've got some astrology updates. We've got a big eclipse happening, lots of planetary alignments, and we're going to go into a lot about why people feel certain ways. It's because of planetary alignments, things like that. You need to know this stuff because if you wake up and you're feeling all groggy and just totally thrown off, you don't know why, it could be a planetary alignment. It could be throwing your energy off. It could be aligning you up to a good possibility of something happening. These are the kind of things we want to pass the information along because it always helps make better decisions on your everyday just living in general. So the astrology is just as important as news updates to be aware of what's going on in the world. And just some quick headlines here. I posted these articles up this morning. Check out starseedradio.com. Dangers of smart meters extend beyond radiation exposure. We know smart meters are horrible. They cause not just like cancer and weaken immune system, but they do a number of things like Wi-Fi signals that kill trees, kill bees. I mean, these are the type of devices the elites put up all over the place to try to get us sick, to sell us pharmaceutical drugs. I mean, we know this. If you don't, do your research. Another article I put up, 4 things you should know about your third eye. If you don't know what your third eye is, your pineal gland, Google magic. Google pineal gland, Google third eye, or check the article at my Twitter feed, or you can check starseedradio.com. We're also going to touch on with Ryan today, we're going to talk about the virus outbreak, dengue virus, and Ebola outbreak. Lots of things going on. Chicago, we're going to touch on the ISIS. They're right around Baghdad. ISIS going on. Some earth changes, nothing too crazy. We're going to talk about the volcano eruption. And also we're going to talk a little bit about Hong Kong and the protests going off over there. And with that, we will bring on Mr. Ryan Matthew Dernick. Ryan, how's it going this morning?
Very well, Jonah. How are you doing this morning?
I'm feeling good. Woke up nice and early and got my Starbucks here, which is not my favorite way to start the day, but I had a late night, so I do drink coffee every now and then to get the morning going. So let's talk about first, let's just jump into probably the biggest news, which is ISIS. We got ISIS barreling down on Baghdad, and ISIS, remember, was funded and started by who? Who was it, Ryan? Can you remind the listeners out there?
Oh, ISIS, yeah. ISIS was started, it was basically a spin-off, if you will, of Al-Qaeda, but a lot of people are losing in translation thinking that they're totally two different entities when their ultimate goal is actually the same. So, essentially, they're a spin-off, if you will, but it's basically because of all the bombing that has been going on in the area. You could say that, in a way, we've caused ISIS to gain momentum by doing the drone strikes.
Well, not just cause them, but I was also referring to in Syria months back, who gave ISIS money, who gave ISIS guns, who gave ISIS training?
We did.
We did! The USA!
We did.
All right. That's right. And who left all our tanks and artillery, and who left all this beautiful stuff laying there?
We left all the ammunition. Yeah. You know, we're good guys. We like to help them out. And
listen, we know this is planned. I mean, you know damn well they could have sent in 5,000 troops weeks ago, a month ago, to secure Baghdad. I mean, they got aircraft carriers, they got troops, all over the scene down there. They know exactly well what's going on. They want ISIS to go to Baghdad. They want ISIS to take over. This is what they want.
Exactly. And to this date, ISIS has actually purged out 150,000 refugees into neighboring Turkey. So you have a displacement of so many people that's continuing. And on top of that, you have the bombings that are going on, these coalition bombings. And in news a couple days ago, they said the bombings aren't working. The fighting Syrian army that's helping us, the FSA, they say, yo, you're bombing us. Like, make sure you're hitting the right targets. And
that's right. I saw that. When people realize when we do like these targeted bombings, we're sending in fighter jets, man. They're dropping big bombs. They're taking out not just the car of terrorists rolling down the road. They're taking out the road, the buildings all around there. They're taking out the whole city block. They're dropping uranium-rich mega bombs off fighter jets. And this goes into like Syria, what happened with the suicide bomber a couple days ago or yesterday, walked in and blew himself up outside a school. I mean, this is just
they killed 30 people, predominantly children, at a school, and it was before the actual initial bombing. They had a suicide bomber detonate himself, and then a car bomb was detonated outside, just to make sure that everything was taken care of in regards to inflicting the most terror.
I wish I could really talk on the air how I really feel about them. They're a bunch of, you know what? It's just, who's going to go do something like that and blow up, it's like, a bunch of kids. I mean, basically, the U.S. knows what's going on. They know ISIS is going to destabilize the region because, hey, we've been doing this for years now. We're destabilizing Pakistan, Yemen, Syria, Iraq, Afghanistan.
Yep.
I mean, the list goes on and on. Oh, and then, of course, don't forget, all the Al-Qaeda cells. And what happened in Libya? Oh, yeah, we're going to free the Libyan people. What happened in Libya? We bombed the crap out of them. 50 to 60,000 civilians died.
Exactly.
And then Hillary goes on the news and says, oh, we were successful and no civilians died. I mean, it's just total propaganda bullshit.
Exactly.
And what's happening in Libya right now? Who's controlling Libya? Al-Qaeda! Al-Qaeda! Of course, yeah, we're going to liberate the people.
No, and then if you go back...
Let's put Al-Qaeda in the government.
Yeah, and then you have...
And Somalia.
And remember, if you go back here, you have the number 2 head of Al-Qaeda dying at the Pentagon.
Oh, of course.
So
you can't forget that. That's like putting the ex-Monsanto vice president in charge of our Food and Drug Administration. Who would do something crazy like that? Oh, we do.
Exactly.
We did.
Oh, yeah.
We did that. I mean, the writing is all over the wall everywhere of how backwards and just crazy the world really is in terms of the superpowers and what they're doing. They know full on well what's going on. Everybody needs to understand these are controlled. This is a controlled turn by the elites, by the banks to really stress and strap the people down. I mean, wars, the economy, the money, everything is rigged. Everything is set like that.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Ryan.
Definitely. And then aside from that, we have other news in regards to shootings in the United States. Over the weekend, last weekend, if you missed it, 5 dead, 40 were wounded in shootings in around the Chicago area. And we all know why that happened. And unfortunately, out of the 5 dead, there was a 13-year-old that was killed. A boy, and what's going on there? Why are there so many shootings? Why are there so many muggings in that area, and as well in New York? Because they have a gun ban in those cities. Those are UN platform cities, test cities, to see how it will be when they take everyone's guns away.
That's right. That's right. And hold on right there, Ryan. We got lots more news to cover. We're going to take a quick commercial break. Here's some more DJ Gon Mix. When we get back, let's talk a little bit more about the Earth changes and also now the Ebola outbreak and Hong Kong. So hang on right there. Right back after these messages. back to the show. You are now listening to Starseed Radio. We're joined by Ryan Dernick from BellwetherPost.com, going over the latest news and updates. So, Ryan, we talked about ISIS, what's going on. We all know that this, the CIA, the U.S. government is not only probably mostly all of it behind it. I'm sure there's other countries that are involved, but they're orchestrating this. This is planned. We funded ISIS. We funded Al Qaeda. We started it. I mean, they know what's going on. This is just.
And the Saudis also have a hold on ISIS as well, and are helping as well. They say that there's a bunch of miscellaneous anonymous donors that they don't know how they're getting all their funding.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's coming.
Pretty laughable.
It's coming from. I'll tell you, Wells Fargo. Bank United, Citibank, the Rothschilds and the Bilderbergs. That's where the ISIS piggy bank is from. I'm sure. So, anyways, ISIS, it's just another jihad facade, if you will. And anyone who detonates himself in front of a school is a big. I'm not even going to say it on the airwaves, but anyways, moving on. Let's go move on to. Talked about Chicago. We talked about ISIS. Now we have this dengue virus outbreak. And dengue, for people that don't know, there's all different versions of it. I live in Costa Rica, and that's why I'm here in Florida, actually, is because a few months ago we had an outbreak in Santa Teresa, where I live in Costa Rica, and we had over 200 people in our town sick, and there's only 1,000 people in the town I live in. You're talking over 20% of the population got sick. I mean, the city came out to the house where I'm at. They tested the bamboo. It was all positive, and I boogied out of there, and it's now spread all over. So tell us about this dengue virus, and where it's...
Yeah, it's a variation of the dengue virus, also called Chikungunya virus and the Zika virus, and they're spread by the bite of an infected mosquito. And so essentially the name Chikungunya, it basically is an African name meaning to become contorted, because it causes rigidity in the joints, and those are just some of the symptoms that you can have. You can also have a fever as well. So far, there's only 11 cases being confirmed, and they are originating in Florida, but this is spurring concern, though, that this may be the beginning of some other explosive growth elsewhere from a disease that has no vaccine or cure. And patients, again, who contract this will have joint swelling, fever, pain, headache, rash for about a week. But some of the symptoms actually can last for a month or more, Jonah, according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. And, the CDC, we're really hearing about them more and more, especially with the Ebola outbreak. And now, actually, that Chikungunya is in Florida. It could infect, is what they're saying, 10,000 people in the state alone, according to the director of Florida Medical Etymology, Walter Tabchinik. And so basically he's saying that more than 700,000 people, for instance, are suspected of being infected with the virus in South America, Central America, and the Caribbean since it appeared there originally, according to the Pan American Health Organization. Then on to other news, the Ebola outbreak we heard yesterday and the day before. Oh, there's a possibility of an individual that has contracted Ebola. And possibility. Now it's confirmed. And now we find out this individual has come into contact with 80 other people that now are under suspected possible being inflicted with the disease. This is the gentleman in Texas who's not even from Texas. He's from Liberia. Okay? And so basically what's going on here is that Thomas Eric Duncan is the individual identified by the AP as the victim of the often fatal virus of Ebola. And basically parents rushed to get their children out of school today in and around Dallas, Texas, because of fears, understandably, that it's already been communicated into the general population. So it's definitely rise, even though yesterday the CDC director said, don't worry, we got this checked, okay? We're going to keep this under wraps. And now it's snowballing, and you're seeing that more and more people affected. And again, what we said yesterday, that the recycling of air in the cabins of planes, this gentleman was wildly vomiting at certain points. So what it says to me is he contacted and possibly communicated that to many more people, which they're probably going to trace. And it's going to become much more revealed later on, possibly today or tomorrow, how many more people have came in contact with this gentleman. So this is just kind of going out of control, snowballing. As we know, it originated in Sierra Leone. Liberia,
and I just want to throw this out. You know, I've been talking about shungite all week. This mineral shungite, you could buy it at starseedtechnologies.com. You can buy it all over, but we offer it too. But shungite is antibacterial, antifungal. These are the type of minerals that you can wear, literally.
And Jonah, Jonah, remember what we said
against this stuff.
And when we said 2 days ago, we were like, it may go airborne. It's a possibility. Now the United Nations has just said the Ebola chief raises nightmare prospect that the virus could mutate and become airborne. This just came out literally in the last couple of minutes in a press conference. So the longer it moves between human hosts, the greater possibility of mutation. And they've actually done test studies, if you read about it, lab studies, where they have different animals in close proximity to one another. They have pigs in close proximity with monkeys and separated by a grate. What happens? The pigs with Ebola, they transmit it to the monkeys, and they die.
So now that it's gone airborne, I mean, this takes us to...
No, it's not airborne, but it's the potential for it to go airborne. It's in the collective consciousness. The United Nations Ebola chief has raised the nightmare prospect of the possibility of it going airborne, but right now it has not gone airborne yet. But when you have more and more people that are afflicted with it in close proximity, you can transmit it because of your expectorating or
aren't there some strains that they have found in Liberia that have gone airborne?
There are some strains that have gone airborne, but it proximally or very immediately close to where there's a large clusters of people that are afflicted with the virus itself.
Gotcha.
And then aside from that, what else is going on? Japan's Mount Ontake. Now the death toll's up to 48, and they said the CF said actually there's volcanoes in the United States that people like to climb on too that are also vulnerable. Mount St. Helens, which erupted in the 80s. Also, you have Mount Rainier in Tacoma, in Washington, outside of Seattle, which would affect a large metropolitan centers if it were to erupt. Aside from affecting climbers, and so these are just as things keep increasing in regards to seismicity and volcanology. There's just things you got to keep abreast of and constantly Google and do your own research and know what's going on. Be conscious, because it's all about a collective adoration of consciousness going and transcending to a higher level of harmony, and that's really what it's all about. So even though we're talking about scientific...
And that's why we talk about it. It's not to put fear. It's not to be like, oh my God, Ebola outbreak, everyone freak out. It's to be aware of it, because you have to be aware of these problems to stop the problems. If you're not aware of it, we can't collectively stop it. You know, if we ignore ISIS and we ignore all this stuff that's going on, we don't talk about it, and how are we going to... You can't stop something you don't know about. You can't put energy. You can't send light. You can't send love to something you're not aware of. You can't be like, oh, I don't want to hear about it. It lowers my vibration. Well, guess what? The vibration of the whole planet right now is pretty damn low. So why don't you, stop at the pity party, take off your pity party hat, get out there, open your mouth, make a sign, spread some truth, and get involved with something, man. It's like, that's what's going on. People are saying there watching American stars. You know, the nation's been going down the tubes for years now, past Obama, past Bush. We're talking
because of pacifism. It's pacifism. Really, we got to be
consumerism too. I mean, Americans filled with consumers. They want to consume everything. Consumption is crazy here. You know, it's time for people to shut the TVs off, get involved, spread the word,
and become active.
Get active.
Flood Wall Street like they did in New York just days ago, where they were almost about a week ago, where they were protesting and trying to say, like, listen, we have to have change. These corporations are the reason not only that they're too big to jail, not too big to fail, but that they've also extorted the American people's trust and are damaging the environment, and they are the ones responsible, not the American people.
Well, Flood Wall Street, we support them as well. Ryan, thanks again for the latest news and updates. We'll have you back on tomorrow, so beware out there. No fear. Spread the light and love, brother. Thank you. And check out bellwetherpost.com. We'll be right back with some astrology updates. Have a great day, Ryan. All right. Welcome back to the show. You're listening to Starseed Radio. That's a little mix from DJ Gunn we had on a few days ago. Always love the electronic and house music, putting that good vibration out on the airwaves. And now joining us next on the show, we have Kelly Anderson to talk about astrology. And a lot of listeners out there may know like their sign, Cancer or Sagittarius, but there's a lot more to astrology than meets the eye. In fact, there's so much to meet with astrology. There's so many different Vedic ones and all different types and styles of astrology. So first, let's welcome Kelly to the show. Kelly, thanks for joining us. How you doing this morning?
Hi, Jonah. I'm wonderful this morning. How are you?
Doing great, doing great. I think it'd be good, Kelly, to start off and just explain to the listeners, if you would, for the listeners out there that don't know, what exactly is astrology and how do you use it, to really navigate through life yourself personally?
Well, astrology for me is a process of knowing ourselves and understanding the world in which we live in. It's a way in which to view the world and understand what kind of energies just are present. Essentially, if we get to learn what's present in our lives, then we can kind of take control of the astrological aspects that are happening no matter what. So it's kind of a way of empowerment, of working with what you've got. I like to look at it like maybe some of your listeners have seen that illustration that has been posted up online recently of actually how our solar system is moving through space. And because of the spiral that we're always going in, it's this continuous portal I see that we're moving through, and the way the planets move around us and the locations that they inhabit around us all represent different archetypes of things that are just happening in our planet right now.
So when people look at astrology, it's a way for them, like you said, to navigate through upcoming changes in individuals' emotional and electromagnetic stability. I mean, there's a lot of things that astrology plays into with everyone's self, correct? I mean, astrology and the planets affect us individually.
Yeah, for instance, right now what's happening is the planets are bringing us this really potent energy of transformation. They're saying that this is the energy that is going to be present in our world right now. And essentially, a lot of people who might not pay attention to astrology or might not be proactive about working with their life, then will become victims to the energy of transformation. They're not looking around to see what they can be transforming in their lives, how they can meet this energy head on. Pluto represents transformation, and they say when Pluto shows up on your doorstep, you don't take Pluto aside. You bring Pluto the energy that it wants, and then essentially you're able to use your planet. You're able to use the energy that is present instead of allowing it to just work you.
Now, when you talk about energy from planets, let's go a little bit deeper into that, because a lot of listeners may not understand the energetic properties and pulls of a planet. How do the planets affect us internally? Like, when the planets align or planets move around, how do they affect us individually?
Well, for instance, I talk about Pluto, right? Pluto, the archetype of Pluto matches the archetype of what this planet is. It's the furthest out planet. People aren't calling it a planet, but we discovered it, and it still affects our psyche. Whenever a planet is discovered, astrologers pay attention to the energy that is present in humanity, and they give the archetype of this planet that kind of energy. And so Pluto is way out there, it's super icy, it's in the dark, and so it represents the inner place inside of us that only we know. It represents our deepest yearnings, the place of transformation that comes when everything breaks down, and the new can be born from it, but it represents death and birth then. And so what happens right now, Pluto is squaring the sun, and so the way the planets, you can imagine them traveling around us in this vortex. And so Pluto and the sun are making a 90-degree angle to each other. And within nature, the 90-degree angle is the least easily assimilated energy. That's why we see green in the color of plants, because green hits the electromagnetic spectrum at a 90-degree angle, and so it's not assimilated easily by the natural world. And so that's why green is everywhere. So green traps energy inside of our vortex, our personal vortex, our collective vortex. And so right now we have some energy that's trapped within the forces of death that Pluto represents and the forces of light that the sun represents. And we have to try, and this is not an easy aspect. This is a very intense aspect that, because it's a square, it says these energies don't easily relate, and we have to now make sense of them.
Now, when people are hearing a lot of this, like, again, they may not be used to this, but basically the vibrations of the planets affect us internally, just like the electromagnetic field affects us, just like the frequency of the planet affects us. The beat of the planet is the beat of our heartbeat. All of this is tied in together, is my point and what I'm getting at. All of our natural rhythm cycles are all tied in, not just to us, but we're tied into nature, we're tied into Gaia, to Mother Earth, we're tied into the planets, and that's what people need to understand and realize. When you're waking up and you're all crazy one day, or you wake up and you don't understand, you're crying all day, you don't know why, it's probably because there's some heavy planetary alignments going on. That's why we want to talk about it, and that's why I want to bring to people's attention, is because this is really powerful stuff, and it affects every single person in many ways. What are some other ways, in some, when people are being affected by, say, planetary alignments or eclipses? What are some things that people can look for, when there's a big planetary alignment, like the eclipse coming up? What can people expect from this big eclipse happening next week?
Well, a lot of these big alignments are kind of like road points in our tour through life. So essentially, with this eclipse, we're coming to a checkpoint, and we have a decision ahead of us how we can respond to something that's going to happen. We can either respond in a creative way that's different from how we might have responded in the past, because all of astrology follows these movements and lessons that we've chosen to learn in this life. So we're asked to continuously hone our response. So when we're getting aspects that are strong or difficult that are happening in the sky, it's almost as if like you're learning to play the guitar and you're jamming with people, and there are people who can play a jam that's really easy for you to play even if you aren't good at the guitar. But when we have more difficult aspects happening, like squares in the sky, there might be some notes that you can't hit, and it's maybe like an orchestra that requires a jazz musician kind of evolution. It's someone who knows how to play their instrument a little better, who can play along to what's happening. And until you can get practice at your responses to life and get honed at your instrument of responding to life, then you won't necessarily be able to harvest these difficult aspects to their greatest potential. And when we say, we have aspects like Pluto present, and these are difficult transformational aspects, these are also the most powerful aspects that we can use and utilize in making our new world and making our dreams come true, because the aspects of transformation in astrology are directly related more than anything to the aspects of manifestation in this physical reality. So I believe it is our responsibility as awake individuals, as conscious individuals, to say, okay, what's happening right now? How can we use our body as an instrument or a tool to be present with what's happening right now to create some in a responsible way?
I think that's a important, not just question, but important for people, listeners out there, to explore for themselves. Because when we talk about this stuff, Kelly, we talk about from your own experience, my own experience. But when we talk to the listeners like we're doing right now, all the listeners need to have their own experience to really understand what we're talking about with energies and planetary alignments and eclipses, which is why it's so important to learn this stuff and pay attention to this stuff. One of my first awakenings was really getting an astrology reading, and this astrologer, by doing just my birth date and putting it in the computer, this guy told me every major event that happened in my life, everything. It blew my mind. I was like, how can some guy punch in my date of birth into a computer and tell me every major event in my life and everything? And that 6 years ago was one of the first instances that I experienced knowing that, hey, there's something else going on here, because there's no way this guy could know all these facts and everything about my life when I just met him. He doesn't even know my name yet. So these are the type of things that we want to teach people, because this information, this knowledge is ancient. Everyone read the stars. Everybody knew this. All the tribes, all the indigenous people. So this is not some new thing we're inventing or something we're making up. We are relearning. We're remembering the ancient knowledge of astrology. So with that, we're going to take a quick commercial break, Kelly, and when we get back, we'll see if we can take some callers. Any callers out there, you can call the station, and we'll answer any questions you got. 800-313-9443. Kelly, hang on right there. We'll be right back after these commercials. Starseed Radio. That's a little bit of DJ Gong PLF Sunrise Mix. A shout out to DJ Gong. Thanks for coming on. Next week we have one of my personal friends, DJ Michael Scalar, coming on. We're playing his music next week. Then back to our guest of the hour, we have Kelly Anderson joining us, talking about astrology and the importance of astrology, why it's important, what it does, and how it can help us. I mean, the bottom line. With that, looks like we got a caller, and we'll take a caller real quick, Kelly, and see what Bill from Idaho has to say. Bill, welcome to the show. How can we help you? What's your question?
Oh, great that you're back, Jonah. We're so happy for you. I was hoping, and I'm at the board, I wanted to ask, there considerable study within the corporate 501c3 church, the discernment of the Spirit and or Holy Spirit or prompting of the Spirit, and their appreciation and edification or education of the biblical text, and to incorporate nothing but the best. What the lady could elaborate on with this particular phasic event, astrophysical or whatever form, enhance on that to identify how to get the best.
So let me ask Bill what your question is when you're talking about the Holy Spirit. How can that coincide with what Kelly's talking about in terms of astrology? Is that correct?
Yes.
So Kelly, in astrology, that's a great question. Bill from Idaho has. In astrology, how does astrology align with God, with the Holy Spirit?
Well, I like to take this time right now that we're in and find the truth essentially in every spiritual text. And I really like the Christian's approach to spirituality as holding Christ is important, because I feel like the Christ consciousness is a really essential aspect to the waking up of humanity process right now. Essentially, I think that is the star seed that the Christians are holding for us and offering it for us right now, is the epitome of what a human being can be. And I believe that this second coming of Christ is real, and that it could be just awakening within each one of us. And so with the energies right now that we're experiencing, it is kind of asking us to find a union within ourselves. How are we the bridge between heaven and earth right now? How can we bridge the energies of light and dark, the polarities that are happening right now on our planet? And just like Christ, how can we face kind of the most intense aspects of living on this planet right now, living in the story of this time? How can we face this with unconditional love? How can we face our neighbors who may be aggressive or, giving us the opposite polarity than we're holding? How can we hold them like Christ would hold them? How can we hold everyone like that?
The follow-up, please, in regard to fearing the enemy within. The exact instruction was, beware of those that would say they are Jews and yet are not. And yet within our biblical community, we're afraid of Aryan nations that have been long dead and long forgotten and not quite yet buried.
Well, exactly, Bill. There's a lot to fear right now, but it is kind of like, they say, as above, so below. If we're looking to the heavens for guidance, then we are asked to say, what is our inner world? What is our inner war? Who is our inner enemy? How do we judge ourselves? How are we holding ourselves? And how are we really approaching our neighbors on the inside in a way that people can't see? If Jesus was to appear to us as a savior or as an enemy, how can we approach that in our highest?
Thank you so very much, Jonah. Please, Section
Absolutely.
C, Immigration Judge, Shola Patrick. Please look at it closely. Be in touch.
Absolutely.
Bless you both.
Bill,
Bye-bye.
thank you so much.
Thank you.
Blessings to you, Bill. Thanks for calling in. And, he brings up a good point. You have a lot of people, a lot of listeners out there, Muslim, Christian, Buddha, that listen to the show. And, all of this is tied in together, Kelly. We know that. In terms of, if you believe that Jesus Christ is your Savior and that's what's going to raise your consciousness and vibration, that's cool. Don't force that upon people. Don't force someone else to take that up. That's where I sort of draw the line, because whatever you believe really manifests and comes to fruition, this reality. That's how it works, the law of attraction. We're trying to bring together is all of us need to band together, Christians, Jews, Muslims, Aryan Nation, whatever, because the only way any of this is going to stop, and I'm talking like the chemtrails, the poisoning, I mean, well, it's all of us to come together. That's the way to stop. And everyone needs to realize that, because there's not one group that can change it. The Christians can't change the whole world. The Jews can't change the whole world. The Muslims can't take over and change the whole world. It's not going to work like that. So what we really need to realize is, how can we all work together, unified, to create a new reality to make this system obsolete? Because this system is garbage. It's bobo, education on down to finances, to fiat currencies. I mean, you name it, and it's not for the people, it's against the people. So we're creating new realities of institutions, of systems, and that's what people really need to understand, is we're all in this together for the children, for all children. Everyone's got children. Then we need to band together for the children. Whatever that common ground is, people need to find it, unify, and move forward. And with astrology, getting back to astrology, and why you're joining us on the show, because astrology ties into all of these decisions and times of our life where we have this opportunity to do something like this. And coming up very soon, we all have a big opportunity to do what? Because you were telling us before the show, we have not just an eclipse coming, but some big major opportunities coming up to really transform and shed people that we don't need in our lives, are not for the right reasons in our lives, and that opportunity is coming up when, Kelly?
Well, we have eclipse season coming up. So usually eclipses happen in series. We're going to be having our first eclipse happening next Wednesday on October 8th. But we've had some pretty intense setups leading up to that time. And this next week is kind of going to be the start of the intensity that we're going to be feeling for the eclipse. We've got the eclipse that's happening is a lunar eclipse on Wednesday. It's going to be aligning with the planet Uranus. And like I was talking about earlier, all planets have their archetypes. So Uranus archetype is kind of left field. Uranus supposedly rotates upside down. It appears different than every other planet to it. And so this lunar eclipse is aligning exactly on top of Uranus. So it's kind of like an eclipse with Uranus as well. So essentially that brings an unpredictable aspect. We're going to be feeling it in this next week to come, because we have some Pluto aspects that are going to be breaking down things in our life. We're going to be asking the big questions, because Mercury's going retrograde in Scorpio, so we're going to be trying to get to the bottom of things. We're going to be trying to figure out what relationships work for us, what we can build upon, and what needs to break down. Because just before the eclipse, the things that aren't working, the things that aren't aligned with our life path, with our life purpose, are going to essentially have to die. And it might be a little bit of a painful process, but how we can meet this process in the week before the eclipse is by trusting that whatever's dying, whatever's breaking down is leading towards our purpose, is leading towards, the relationships that we're supposed to be in, the relationships that we're supposed to be building. This next week with the eclipse on October 8th, it's like super fate time. It's relationships that you need will be put in front of you. And when you get a yes about something, you need to go with that yes, and if there's not a clear yes, then it's a no. And so in this week to come, it's going to be, a time when a lot of things that might have been unclear to us are going to become clear. A lot of long-standing questions that we've had may get answered, and a lot of the confusion maybe about where we should be going, the bigger picture of what we're involved in, might start to get answered, at least with karmic relationships, with, exciting events and synchronicities that may start to happen, especially around the eclipses next week.
Awesome. Kelly, thank you so much for coming on the air, and we're out of time. And again, everyone out there, if you're not aware and not familiar with what Kelly talked about, astrology, just Google it, YouTube it, check it out, learn it. It's an amazing way to navigate through life, and it's just another tool to help us make the right decisions and deal the best we can with the craziness of the planet right now, trying to get it into sync. So Kelly, thank you so much for coming on the show. Have an amazing
Thank you,
day,
Jonah.
Star Sister, and we will talk to you soon. And here is some more DJ Gone. We'll be back on the airwaves tomorrow, Friday, to wrap it up for the week with our new time slot. Check out starseedradio.com. Light and love, everyone. Enjoy your day. Which is not my favorite way to start the day, but I had a late night, so I do drink coffee every now and then to get the morning going. So let's talk about first, let's just jump into probably the biggest news, which is ISIS. We got ISIS barreling down on Baghdad, and ISIS, remember, was funded and started by who? Who was it, Ryan? Can you remind the listeners out there?
Oh, ISIS, yeah. ISIS was started, it was basically a spin-off, if you will, of Al-Qaeda, but a lot of people are losing in translation thinking that they're totally two different entities when their ultimate goal is actually the same. So, essentially, they're a spin-off, if you will, but it's basically because of all the bombing that has been going on in the area. You could say that, in a way, we've caused ISIS to gain momentum by doing the drone strikes.
Well, not just cause them, but I was also referring to in Syria months back, who gave ISIS money, who gave ISIS guns, who gave ISIS training?
We did.
We did! The USA!
We did.
All right. That's right. And who left all our tanks and artillery, and who left all this beautiful stuff laying there?
Welcome. We are broadcasting live from the mothership. You are tuned in and listening to Starseed Energy Radio with your host Jonah Bolt. Starseed Energy Radio, where you can always tune in to hear the colors and see the music. Starseed Energy Radio goes live in 3, 2, 1.
What's up, Spaceship Earth? Thanks for tuning in. You are now receiving a live transmission from Starseed Radio. It is time to hear the colors and see the music. I am your host, Jonah Bolt. Today is Thursday, October 2nd, 2014. That was a sample from DJ Gone's mix, PFL Sunrise. He was on the show a little earlier this week where we mixed his music all weekend long on our new radio show spot, which is Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. to noon Eastern Time and 8 to 9 a.m. Pacific Time. And if any callers are out there, you got any questions or comments for us today, you can call 800-313-9443. Got a lot of stuff to cover today, lots of news, lots of things going on. We're going to have Ryan Dernick going over the latest news and updates with us the first half of the show. Second half of the show, Kelly Anderson will be joining us. We've got some astrology updates. We've got a big eclipse happening, lots of planetary alignments, and we're going to go into a lot about why people feel certain ways. It's because of planetary alignments, things like that. You need to know this stuff because if you wake up and you're feeling all groggy and just totally thrown off, you don't know why, it could be a planetary alignment. It could be throwing your energy off. It could be aligning you up to a good possibility of something happening. These are the kind of things we want to pass the information along because it always helps make better decisions on your everyday just living in general. So the astrology is just as important as news updates to be aware of what's going on in the world. And just
all the ammunition. Yeah, you know, we're good guys. We like to help them out. And
listen, we know this is planned. I mean, you know damn well they could have sent in 5,000 troops weeks ago, a month ago, to secure Baghdad. I mean, they got aircraft carriers, they got troops, you know, all over the scene down there. They know exactly well what's going on. They want ISIS to go to Baghdad. They want ISIS to take over. This is what they want.
Exactly. And to this date, ISIS has actually purged out 150,000 refugees into neighboring Turkey. So you have a displacement of so many people that's continuing, and on top of that, you have the bombings that are going on, these coalition bombings. And in news a couple days ago, they said the bombings aren't working. The fighting Syrian army that's helping us, the FSA, they say, yo, you're bombing us. Like, make sure you're hitting the right targets. And
that's right. I saw that. You know, when people realize when we do like these targeted bombings, we're sending in fighter jets, man. They're dropping big bombs. They're taking out not just the car of terrorists rolling down the road. They're taking out the road, the buildings all around there. They're taking some quick headlines here. I posted these articles up this morning. Check out starseedradio.com. Dangers of smart meters extend beyond radiation exposure. We know smart meters are horrible. They cause not just like cancer and weaken immune system, but they do a number of things like Wi-Fi signals that kill trees, kill bees. I mean, these are the type of devices the elites put up all over the place to try to get us sick, to sell us pharmaceutical drugs. I mean, we know this. If you don't, do your research. Another article I put up, 4 things you should know about your third eye. If you don't know what your third eye is, your pineal gland, Google magic. Google pineal gland, Google third eye, or check the article at my Twitter feed, or you can check starseedradio.com. We're also going to touch on with Ryan today, we're going to talk about the virus outbreak, dengue virus, and Ebola outbreak. Lots of things going on. Chicago, we're going to touch on the ISIS. They're right around Baghdad. ISIS going on. Some earth changes, nothing too crazy. We're going to talk about the volcano eruption. And also we're going to talk a little bit about Hong Kong and the protests going off over there. And with that, we will bring on Mr. Ryan Matthew Dernick. Ryan, how's it going this morning?
Very well, Jonah. How are you doing this morning?
I'm feeling good. Woke up nice and early and got my Starbucks here, which